How was it that during all that time the world of my youth seemed to me to have disappeared, as if hidden behind a cloud, whilst the future which lay before me shone clear and resplendent, like those magic islands which Columbus and his companions mistook for baskets of flowers floating on the sea? Alas! Simply because during the first 20 years of our life we have hope for our guide, and during the last 20, reality. From the hour when, weary with our journey, we ungird ourselves, and dropping the traveller's staff, sit down by the wayside, we begin to look back over the road that we have traversed. For it is the way ahead that now is dark and misty, and so we turn and gaze into the depths of the past. Then, with the wide desert awaiting us in front, we are astonished, as we look along the path which we have left behind, to catch sight of first one and then another of those delicious oases of verdure and shade, beside which we never thought of lingering for a moment, and which indeed we had passed by almost without notice. But then how quickly our feet carried us along in those days! We were in such a hurry to reach that goal of happiness to which no road has ever yet brought any one of us. It is at this point that we begin to see how blind and ungrateful we have been. It is now that we say to ourselves, if we could but once more come across such a green and wooded resting place, we would stay there for the rest of our lives, would pitch our tent there, and there end our days. But the body cannot go back and renew its existence, and so memory has to make its pious pilgrimage alone. Back to the early days and fresh beginnings of life it travels, like those light vessels that are borne upward by their white sails against the current of a river. Then the body once more pursues its journey, but the body without memory is as the night without stars, as the lamp without its flame. And so body and memory go their several ways. The body, with chance for its guide, moves towards the unknown. Memory, that bright will-o'-the-wisp, hovers over the landmarks that are left behind, and memory, we may be sure, will not lose her way. Every oasis is revisited, every association recalled, and then with a rapid flight she returns to the body that grows ever more and more weary, and like the humming of a bee, like the song of a bird, like the murmur of a stream, tells the tale of all that she has seen. And as the tired traveller listens, his eyes grow bright again, his mouth smiles, and a light steals over his face. For Providence in kindness, seeing that he cannot return to youth, allows youth to return to him. And ever after he loves to repeat aloud what memory tells him in her soft, low voice. And is our life then bounded by a circle like the earth? Do we unconsciously continue to walk towards the spot from which we started? And as we travel nearer and nearer to the grave, do we again draw closer, ever closer, to the cradle? Part 2. I cannot say, but what happened to myself, that much at any rate I know. At my first halt along the road of life, my first glance backwards, I began by relating the tale of Bernard and his uncle Berthelin, then the story of Ange Betu, his fair fiancée, and of Aunt Angelique. After that I told of Conscience and Mariette, and lastly of Catherine Blum and Father Vatrin. I am now going to tell you the story of Thibault and his wolves, and of the Lord of Vez. And how, you will ask, did I become acquainted with the events which I am now about to bring before you? I will tell you. Have you read my memoirs, and do you remember one by name Moquet, who was a friend of my father's? If you have read them, you will have some vague recollection of this personage. If you have not read them, you will not remember anything about him at all. In either case, then, it is of the first importance that I should bring Moquet clearly before your mind's eye. As far back as I can remember, that is when I was about 3 years of age, we lived, my father and mother and I, in a little chateau called Les Fosses, situated on the boundary that separates the departments of Aisne and Oise, between Haramont and Longpré. The little house in question had doubtless been named Les Fosses on account of the deep and broad moat filled with water with which it was surrounded. I do not mention my sister, for she was at school in Paris, and we only saw her once a year when she was home for a month's holiday. The household, apart from my father, mother, and myself, consisted firstly of a large black dog called Truffa, who was a privileged animal and made welcome wherever he appeared, more especially as I regularly went about on his back. Secondly,